Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So, we're continuing our reading of Friedrich Nietzsche's The Book Zarathustra. And what I like about this book is that it gives us something unique to think about, breaks up the normal routine of our inner thoughts, and I always find that to be quite beneficial. I have a nice casserole baking in the oven, and it feels like the perfect weather today to read. Had a nice hot mocha that I made at home. It's raining almost, so perfect reading weather. Bismillah, let's begin. It is of time and becoming that the best parables should speak. Let them be a praise and a justification of all impermanence. So that's a very unique way of looking at parables. I know I truly enjoyed them. That's why I have a vast collection of different texts that have lots of parables for us to look at. Creation. That is the great redemption from suffering. So creation being the great redemption from suffering. And life's growing late. But that the Creator may be suffering is needed and much change. Now, when we see something that says Creator here, obviously we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot suffer. But I think of that movie called Chappie, where the guy who has a robot that became smarter than the other robots tells him, "I am your maker, Chappie, you to obey me." And he suffered watching his robot go and be around these crazy street thugs. That's what I think of when I see something like that. Indeed, there must be much bitter dying in your life, you creators. Thus are you advocates and justifiers of all impermanence. So a bitter dying in our life, you creators. We try to make something, and we have to watch it fail sometimes. I think livestock breeders might deal with that a lot. Your goat gives birth in a night, your cow, to stillbirth, doesn't survive. Especially with horses. Couldn't imagine the stress. You know, if something goes wrong. You're trying to create a nice breeding stock, and it just doesn't make it. Thus are you advocates and justifiers of all impermanence. To be the child who is newly born, the Creator must also want to be the mother who gives birth and the pangs of the birth giver. Now that one's unique. To be the child who is newly born, the Creator must also want to be the mother who gives birth. It's like because when you go through birth, you suffer for it. When you have your first child, you don't exactly know what to expect. But when you have your second, and so on and so forth, you know what to expect. And you're willing to go through that pain in order to get your reward, which is your child. For responsible mothers, not pathetic drug addicts and whatnot, who just get knocked up by any loser. But they still kept the child, so they're willing to go through the pains, right? It's almost like he's making us think about how if you're going to create something, you better be willing to suffer for it. Because a mother, by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, allows her body to create that cute little baby. But she knows there's going to come a time where her water breaks, and here comes the test. And oh, it's going to hurt. But she's got to go through that. Verily, through 100 souls I have already passed on my way, and through 100 cradles and birth pangs, many a farewell have I taken. I know the heart-rending last hours. But thus my creative will, my destiny wills it. My destiny wills it. we see some atheistic language here, but at the same time it's almost a poetic language. The creative will allowing him to sort of manifest what he wanted to happen. I think of an art piece, in all actuality, when I think of that. When somebody is wanting to create this beautiful landscape, they go through with it. And it takes time and their neck hurts, but they did it. They had a vision and they painted that on the landscape. Or to say it more honestly, this very destiny my will wills. Whatever in me has feelings, suffers, and is in prison. But my will always comes to me as my liberator. So, my will comes to me as a liberator. That's a very unique phrase. Your will coming as a liberator. It's like rescuing you from your own inequities, your own slothness. You're unleashing your potential. Not letting your inhibitions become this roadblock. It does sound a little bit like you're going for your goal in a positive way. That's how I see that. And joy bringer. Willing liberates. That is the true teaching of will and liberty. So willing liberates. Willing liberates, and then we have will and liberty. The liberty to do as you will. When you're under tyranny, you have to get liberated so that you can enact your will. Because the tyrant is enacting his will on you and you are not able to liberally do what you want. There's a lot of wordplay here. Thus Zarathustra teaches it, willing no more and esteeming no more and creating no more. Oh, that this great weariness might always remain far from me. In knowledge too I feel only my will's joy in begetting and becoming. So, in knowledge, he feels a deep sense of joy through his will in begetting knowledge and becoming more knowledgeable. And if there is innocence in my knowledge, it is because the will to beget is in it. Away from God and God's this will has lured me. Well, then now you've gone astray. But for atheists, they see that in a different way, right? What could one create if God exists? Now, that's a potent question for us. You can create the little paradox of your free will. That's the uniqueness, is we don't know how our path is going to unfold. It's really strange, right? But we can create our mental health in a way. Let me put it in a way I'm trying to comprehend it. If you choose a loser to have kids with, you chose a drug dealer, you chose chaos, you have created a miserable life for yourself. But if you disciplined yourself, made wiser choices, you created a better life for yourself. So your will in accepting things in your life helps you to create what your environment will be. Now, you don't have full control over everything in your environment, but you do control how you respond to it, and that will influence your contentment. So I think of how we're called in Islam to be patient, to say alhamdulillah, all praise is due to Allah. That changes the way in which we look at it. Our suffering, especially when we look at Job, may Allah be pleased with him, and how he suffered. But my fervent will to create impels me ever again toward man. Thus is the hammer impelled toward the stone. O men, in the stone there sleeps an image, the image of my images. So see, when I was thinking of the art painting in the beginning, now he kind of moved that into sculpture, because in the stone there is an image when you look at it. I like ceramics. When you have that lump of clay, you start thinking about possibilities, right? I liked making plates and then engraving on them. And once you get started, you know, to wipe out part, you have to get your sponge wet and erase it in a way, and then start again the next day, or when it's dried out and you can chip away at it. But when you're doing like bigger type of sculpture, there's an image that you see, and the good artists recognize that. But we shouldn't make engraven images and idols. But it is quite interesting how the sculptor's mind works and the painter's mind. Alas, that it must sleep in the hardest, the ugliest stone. You see, we're seeing the cleverness here of Nietzsche. So, think of a slab of marble, right? Untamed, unpolished marble. Someone sees an image in that, like what I can create with my hands as an artist, and bring a beauty into fruition, into this realm, into this reality. Now my hammer rages cruelly against its prison. Pieces of rock rain from the stone. What is that to me? I want to perfect it. For a shadow came to me, the stillest and lightest of all things once came to me. The beauty of the overman came to me as a shadow. O my brothers, what are the gods to me now? Thus spoke Zarathustra. Now here, obviously we as Muslims are going to disagree with this polytheistic, atheistic notion he ended with. But let us examine how he said the beauty of the overman came as a shadow. So, his own mind being symbolic of that stone, hard-headed, but his will sculpting his mind and creating this sort of vision in him of the shadow of the overman, and then helping his will to bring that beauty about. He's very clever in how he delivers a message in such a poetic way. But what's off here, I'd argue, is that you can have this humility of knowing you can never truly conceptualize what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks like, or any angel or whatnot. And the shadows of what we think aren't going to bear to reality, but we have a glimpse of how our behaviors can make the world better and us have a more dignified and refined soul, which would then turn us into high quality believers. We wouldn't be like the overmen of Nietzsche. But what I feel he's getting at here is this vision, this shadowy image that isn't as bright yet, but it lingers in your consciousness and you know you want to strive to be something better, that can come to fruition in your reality, and you can start to live in a way that manifests it, and that you become a creator of that will. We have to make sure that we don't have that sort of Luciferian do as thou wilt, because your will is a very unique weapon. It can help you to do better in your life. It can help you to survive being tortured, survive a horrible breakup, get over some horrible loss of the person you loved. But it can also make you so bombastic and egotistical and narcissistic and vapid that it pushes you into a brick wall of your own making, or gets you surrounded by a bunch of hyenas. Because as you were pushing for something, trying to will it into existence, being that dominant one, you stepped on one too many skulls, and one of those ankle biters snagged you by the tail and turned you into someone who has the end of a Rottweiler. Very interesting. Let me know what you think, because creative will is a unique aspect, and I really found this section to be unique. By the way, if you'd like to join my blog, it's www.subscribestar.com/MilahanArchive. Hope to see you there.